everyone, welcome here if you're new, and welcome back if you've already been here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ida. In today's video, I will be talking more about how my pursuit of a smaller body ultimately led me to live a very small life. Before we get into that, let me just sincerely apologize for only uploading my next video now. It feels like a lifetime ago that I uploaded my previous video. Anyways, also before I get into the topic, I have a relatively big announcement to make. We are moving. Yay! Or we were going to move this weekend actually, until Windhoek decided that it was going to go into a lockdown period. Actually, the whole of Namibia, I think, is going to go into lockdown from tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure. I think we should stock up on toilet paper. Just kidding. Anyway, so yeah, we were supposed to move to Windhoek this weekend. Those plans have been a little bit delayed. I think that also contributed to me not having a lot of time to get videos together and to write blog posts, because we were just sort of trying to figure everything out, trying to make sure that we put down a deposit on the flat, trying to make sure that we will be able to move into the flat after the lockdown has been lifted. It's been a bit of a crazy time. We have a lot of weddings that we need to edit, albums that we need to make, but it's exciting times and I'm really looking forward to making the move. To be honest, I would rather be in self-isolation here, where we have a big garden and where I can still take the dogs for a walk every now and then. So anyway, to get back to the topic, let's dive right into the video. So what exactly do I mean when I say that I lived a very small life in pursuit of a smaller body? Now, I'm not talking about minimalism, I'm not talking about ideas on how to get a smaller body. I'm talking about what it's like trying to get a small body and living a really small life. In that sense, it means basically never going to visit my friends, never going to a braai, and feeling anxious about any type of social gathering where I know that there was going to be food that I didn't allow myself to eat. This included going to Bible study, for example, where I knew that there would be coffee and tea, and they would always serve rusks or cookies or cupcakes with the coffee and tea. If you watched my previous video, you would know that those types of foods were basically my downfall, and I avoided them like the plague. I also didn't really like going to braai at friends' houses because I knew that they would have snacks beforehand. I knew that I would have to drink wine or beer, which I wanted to avoid at all costs, except for a little glass of wine every now and then. My life was basically a very structured set of rules. I apologize for my canine friends who don't seem to know that I'm recording. Anyway, let me go close that window. Where was I? My life was basically a structured set of rules that I made for myself, the ideas of which I got from stuff like MyFitnessPal, WebMD, WikiHowTo, you know, all those things that you Google when you want to lose weight. If I didn't adhere to these rules, I would have like mini meltdowns. So just to illustrate, I'm gonna tell you a bit of a story. My mother came to visit me at university in my first year, and we went to the mall one day because we just wanted to get out of the flat for a bit. I was running low on groceries, so I had to stock up on that. On this particular day, I had set a snack for me at around 10 a.m. or at exactly 10 a.m. because at the time I was following this thing where I had to have 5 small meals during the day. I didn't have 3 big meals, I had 5 small meals. I thought that I would be able to follow that a lot easier because my mind was constantly just revolved around food. On that particular day, I had set a meal for myself at 10 a.m. At the time, we were still at the mall and 10 a.m. was approaching and I was starting to feel a little bit uneasy. 10 a.m. came. The uneasiness sort of switched over to panic. 10 a.m. passed and the panic eventually turned into tears. My mom was absolutely speechless because she didn't have any idea why I was crying over a missed 10 a.m. snack. So it might seem like a little bit of a comical situation, but at the time the anxiety that I felt was very real. I felt that if I failed to adhere to my rules, if I didn't discipline myself enough to follow my rules, I wouldn't have a smaller body. Therefore, I didn't deserve to be happy. It's twisted, right? It's weird. It's like a weird mentality to have. Like, you don't deserve to be happy because you missed your 10 a.m. snack. My mom was like, what's wrong with you? Anyway, so that is how these anxious feelings sort of crept up. And that is why I tended to avoid going to braais with friends, because I knew that their eating times didn't correlate with mine. After this 5 meals a day thing, I went completely the opposite direction and I started to try intermittent fasting, which meant that I only had 2 meals a day, and these 2 meals were very tiny, so I was hungry all the time. It meant that I skipped breakfast and I didn't eat between the hours of 8 p.m. and the next day 2 p.m. So I was only allowed to eat between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. every afternoon. And I remember a time I was in the library busy studying when I realized it was 8 p.m. already, and I freaked out because I hadn't eaten anything yet since lunch. I realized, okay, I am going to have to wait until 2 p.m. tomorrow because I'm not allowed to eat after 8 p.m. And this freaked me out so much that the binging sessions started. For those of you who aren't familiar with binging, it's basically stuffing your face with everything that you can lay your hands on. So I would go to this little cafe called Insleep. It was like a little shop on the corner of the Bult. That's where all the students used to go to. And I would buy 2-3 packets of small white rolls, a packet of chips, cheese, and copious amounts of butter. Now, these are all foods that I never really allowed myself to have. I would just decide, you know, stuff this whole thing, I don't really care anymore. So I would just go home and I would butter all these little buns and I would put chips on them and cheese, and I would put it in the microwave, and I would have, I can't even remember how many of these I ate. I just know that I stuffed myself to the point where I was actually getting nauseous. To be honest, I did try to throw up. It worked once or twice, and I tried it again, but I hated that feeling so much that I just never did it again. I just felt extremely out of control and uncomfortable and helpless. I didn't do it again, but I did go on to binge. I felt so guilty after binging that the next day I wouldn't eat anything. So there was this whole classic binge starve cycle where I would have tiny portions of food during the week, only 2 meals a day, after exercising twice a day, and then I would be so hungry that I would just eat everything that I laid my eyes on. That is basically what I would see as living an extremely small, extremely restricted life. Because if you restrict the foods that you want to eat, then you're inevitably going to have a restricted life. If you restrict the times that you're allowed to eat, you're going to have a restricted life. You're going to have a small life because you're not going to allow yourself to go to family lunches. You're not going to allow yourself to go on a midnight ice cream adventure with your friends to celebrate the end of term exams because you're not allowed to have anything at midnight. You're not going to go watch movies with your friends because I used to have too much popcorn, in my opinion, and popcorn was something that I didn't allow myself to have. To tell you another story, I remember yelling at my mom because she dared to buy popcorn. So I remember I was extremely angry at her for buying popcorn, even though she was the one that was gonna have it. I wasn't gonna have it, but I just felt like she didn't take into account that I didn't allow myself to have popcorn, and I was going to become jealous of her if she sat and watched a movie and had popcorn, and relationships got strained during this process, as you might think it would. I think basically what I'm trying to say with this specific video is, if you are in that situation, you've got to think long and hard about whether having a small body is worth everything that you're giving up. is being able to fit into the smallest jean size really worth giving up your friends? Is it worth giving up your family? Is it worth giving up family time, adventures, going on picnics, just not worrying about that type of thing? Is it worth giving up all of that because you think that you're going to be happier in a smaller body? It's not. Take it from someone who has been through this. And I know it's not as easy as just switching off and saying, you know what, I'm not gonna worry about that anymore, because it doesn't work like that. It's a thing in your head and you have to be ready to let go of that. I can't tell you, let go of that. You're not gonna find any happiness if you hold on to this, because it doesn't work that way. It's a thing that you're going to have to decide for yourself. In my next video, I am going to be talking about how I came to the realization that this was actually killing me in a sense. I was dying from this. I know it sounds extremely dramatic, but it is actually what happens if you're too far in this thing. So that is going to be a video for next time. Again, I just want to tell you that if you're going through this, you're not alone. There are a lot of people that suffer with this, and it is something that we need to take seriously, especially among girls, young girls who are still in school, girls who have gone to university and don't really know what to do or how to approach this. It's not something that you can just laugh off. I remember at university, the guy I was dating at the time, him and a friend of his were speaking about girls and their diets. His friend was actually telling him about a diet that his girlfriend was going on, and then my boyfriend at the time said, oh yeah, Ida is also sort of going on all these different diets and trying to lose weight and so on. And his friend actually asked him, like, why is Ida trying to lose weight? His reply was, you know, it's like a girl thing, like all girls go on diets. Do they though? Is it a girl thing? Does it have to be a girl thing? Does it have to be something that we all have to suffer from inevitably? I don't know. Like, obviously, again, I blame social media and I blame the expectations that there are on girls these days. Do we have to follow those rules? Do we have to deprive ourselves of all of this happiness just to fit in a smaller size jeans, or just because it's a girl thing? I don't think so. I think happiness comes with family, it comes with community, it comes with having someone who loves you for who you are and not for what you look like, having something more to live for than the smallest pair of jeans or the smallest dress that you can find. I think happiness is so much more than can be contained in a number on the scale or a number on the back of your jeans label. Yeah, I'm sort of going on a tangent here, but I mean, that's what YouTube videos are. Going off on tangents. If you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel. I will be talking about it a lot more, specifically these types of topics. I am really sorry again for only posting this video now, and I promise that I will upload more videos more frequently. Seeing as we are in self-isolation, we have a lot of time on our hands at the moment, and I hope that what I tell you makes sense. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. And remember, your happiness does not depend on a number. Your happiness comes from so much more. Thank you guys. See you next time. Bye.